My name is Stephanie Beaudry, and this is my husband, Matt Beaudry. And we both have a beautiful 4-year-old son. He's a very happy little boy. He's very playful. He plays a lot of t-ball. He's into hockey. We've actually brought him ice skating. He absolutely doesn't like it, but that's okay. He loves music and dancing and coloring and just being around friends and being around family members. So he's a very good boy. At the very end of August of '07, it was the 28th, we had gone to a baseball game, and the following day he started showing symptoms of a viral infection. So we brought him to the doctors every day to find out exactly what was going on because he wasn't getting any better. They finally decided on the second day that they were going to admit him into the hospital because he was very dehydrated. And during the night, I had noticed that he was having body tremors, and I had mentioned it to the nurse, and she had said to me that she thought it was because he was so dehydrated. Well, they discharged him the following day, and that afternoon, I had lied him down for a nap, and I noticed something wasn't right. So I had put him in his bouncy chair, and I noticed that his eyes were crossing, and his whole body was shaking, and he was projectile vomiting. So I immediately brought him back to his pediatrician, and they did a neurological exam, and that's when they found out that his whole brain was being crushed by fluid. So then in turn, we were sent with him to Hasbro, and that's where they had done the MRI to find out what was wrong. But he was just sick for days, and we didn't know what to do. So the only thing we could think of was to bring him back to the pediatrician and say, we know something's wrong, you need to check him out and tell us what we need to do right now to make our son better. You know, I just remember us sitting in the MRI room, clutching each other, hoping for the best, watching Matthew on the table in the MRI machine, knowing that it probably wasn't going to end well at that point. And when we went back upstairs to the ICU with him, we watched the doctors walk in, and we could see on their faces that they didn't want to tell us what they had to. And they came in and sat us down and told us that the tumor was very, very large, and they were going to have to operate immediately, and they were going to have to put him in almost like a sleep state until they were able to get him into the OR. The day of his surgery that he was supposed to go, there was another surgery before him, so he had to wait. He went the following day, and luckily they had told us it was going to be probably about a 12-hour surgery, and it was about 4 hours.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 hours.
It was about 4 or 5 hours, but the neurosurgeon did come out and look at us and tell us that he did think that it was bad. And we were immediately introduced to the oncology team at Hasbro, and they were wonderful. They explained everything to us. They let us know exactly what they were going to do to him, what kind of chemotherapy they were going to use, the side effects that it would have, how long he would have to be in the hospital for. They supplied a lot of support for us, counselors, social workers, anybody for us to turn to have someone to talk to, because it was such a difficult time. We couldn't work at the time because Matthew needed us with him at all times because it was up and down. We would go to the Ronald McDonald House, which is right down the road from Hasbro, and within hours we would be getting a call back saying that he was running a really high temperature, and we'd have to come right back. We know that he is strong, and he's a fighter. He has been a fighter since the day he was born. I remember when he was born and he was in his bassinet, they had tilted the bassinet a little bit for me to see him, and he lifted himself up into a standing position, and he was only not even an hour old yet, so he's been a fighter ever since he was born. When Hasbro was done doing the first 3 chemotherapy treatments, they sent him to Boston Children's Hospital, where they were the ones that did the stem cell transplants. And Matthew was there for a while, because after a stem cell transplant, the body becomes very, very weak, and it takes a while for them to get healthy again. So we stayed out there with him until he was able to come home. And in March of '08, he was able to come home and then was just going to have follow-ups at Hasbro Children's Hospital for MRIs and blood work to make sure that everything was okay. So for every 3 months for the first year, he had an MRI and everything was fine. For the second year, it was between 3 months and 6 months, the space of time between each MRI, and everything was going well. Just recently, it was about 9 months ago, we found out that they had found a spot in Matthew's brain. It was about the size of a pea, and they were watching it. And just recently, he went back for another MRI, and we found out that in a matter of 3 months, this little pea had doubled in size. So they've decided that they need to remove it and biopsy it and see exactly what it is, if it's cancerous or it's not. So next week, Matthew will be going for brain surgery. Tomorrow we'll be meeting with the neurosurgeon to find out exactly how we're going to go about it. They're going to remove it and biopsy it, and depending on what happens, he might need radiation and some more chemotherapy. But we're hoping for the best with everything.
He's a strong kid, you know. My biggest fear is that he put all his fight into the first one, you know. I know he's a strong kid and he'll pull through and all, but I mean, we absolutely love him to death, you know. And I just can't picture him going through this again, you know. But it's really happening. No, I gotta try and be strong, you know. We do. You know?
That's all we can do.
It's really heartbreaking.